Welcome to the 266th episode of the Reading and Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Rutherford. Stay tuned for my interview with Steff Green, best-selling paranormal, romance, and dark fantasy author. Stay tuned for the interview. And one programming note, this interview was originally recorded last year in 2019. Stay tuned for the interview. This episode of the Reading and Writing Podcast is brought to you by Libro.fm. Libro.fm is the first and only company which lets you purchase audiobooks directly from your favorite local bookstore. Support your favorite local bookstore and you can pick from more than 125,000 audiobooks, including New York Times bestsellers and recommendations from booksellers. You'll get the same audiobooks at the same price as the largest audiobook company out there. You know who I'm talking about. But you'll be part of a different story, one that supports your local bookstore. If you're new to audiobooks, they're the perfect way to get more books into your busy life. If you already love audiobooks and don't know what to listen to next, check out the recommendations and curated list from the people who know audiobooks best, your local bookseller. There's a special offer now for Reading and Writing Podcast listeners. Get 3 audiobooks for the price of one, $14.99, with your first month of membership. Just use the code RWPodcast. Again, that's Libro.fm, purchasing audiobooks from your local bookstore, and use the code RWPodcast. Welcome back to the Reading and Writing Podcast. My guest today is Steff Green. Steff is a USA Today best-selling writer. She writes paranormal romances under the name Steffanie Holmes. She's also the author of 6 dark fantasy novels under the name S.C. Green and a post-apocalyptic urban fantasy series, Chronicles of the Wraith, that are co-written with Lindsay Lux. Steff, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me.
Great. Well, if someone hasn't heard about Shunned, your latest novel that will be published in a couple of weeks, how would you describe the novel?
Ooh, so I'm very, very excited about Shunned, which is coming out in a couple of weeks. It is, so the way I've been talking about it is it's basically Cruel Intentions mixed with H.P. Lovecraft. So it's what we're kind of calling a bully romance story, which is kind of like an enemies to lovers romance, but set in a school. So there's kind of a bullying aspect, but this is a very creepy, very different kind of school. And it's been a lot of fun to write. It's the fastest novel I've ever written. I wrote it in 3 weeks. But yeah, I'm super, super excited about it.
Great. And do you remember the original idea that led you to writing Shunned?
Oh, it was literally that I was thinking about. I've been reading a lot of H.P. Lovecraft lately, and I was thinking about writing one of these kind of bully books set in a school, but I kind of didn't really have a hook beyond that, and then I suddenly thought, well, why don't I mash the two things together? And I've always wanted to write a book that was kind of inspired by the Cthulhu mythos, so it's really cool to be able to combine the two things.
Great. Well, you're a prolific writer, as I kind of mentioned at the outset. What originally led you to writing fiction, and what was your experience like in publishing your first novel?
So, I, like most writers, I was always interested in, from a very young age, I was writing stories and telling stories and things like that. Originally, I wanted to be an archaeologist, but because I'm actually legally blind, so I'm kind of struggle a lot with, vision-related jobs, which is kind of a large part of what archaeology is. So I went to university to do that, but I couldn't find any work. And I was kind of looking at, well, maybe this is not the career choice for me. What am I going to do? And the obvious answer to that was I love writing, so maybe I should have a go at trying to be a writer. And writing is something that, I sit behind my computer and I do it, and no one can kind of tell me that I can't do it because I can't see. So that was really appealing to me. So I did what any self-respecting millennial would do, because I didn't really know how writers actually earned a living or anything like that. So I just Googled how to make a living as a writer, and I tried to do everything that Google told me to do. So I started off sort of about 10 years ago. I was just kind of pitching articles to magazines, and I had this vampire romancey novel that I'd written in university, and I polished it up and I sent it off to editors and agents and did that for a while. And I worked with the first series that I self-published. I actually worked with an editor at one of the big 5 houses for quite a long time. I think it was about 5 years. And they were going to, I had a publishing deal, but then the editor of that publishing house, what happened, she retired, and they used her retirement to cut her list down, and so about half of her books on her list got cut, and I was one of the people that got cut. And I was kind of looking at this sort of 5 years of effort to get to that point, and I was looking at having to start all over again, and it was just depressing. And it was just crushing. And at the same time, that was when a lot of authors like Hugh Howey and Amanda Hocking and Mark Dawson were kind of talking in the media about how they were self-publishing their books and they were making all this money and they were going directly to the readers and, working with Amazon, and everyone was reading them on the Kindle, and it was all super exciting. And also I just got myself a Kindle around that time, and it was really awesome for me because obviously I struggle to see. Just being able to read on a Kindle and kind of enlarge all the print was just, and also because I have to hold, when I read, I have to hold a book really close to my face, like right on my nose. And if you read really thick books, your arms get really tired. And so being able to read on a Kindle and not have to hold up a super heavy book all the time it's just awesome. So I was like, yeah, the Kindle's great. So I thought, well, I'll give the self-publishing a go. So I published the Engine Ward series, which is one of my dark fantasy books series. Sort of one a year. I think it was 2014, 2015, 2016. I think I published those 3. And yeah, in mid 2015, I published my first paranormal romance. Basically, just a friend it was sort of at a party. A friend told me that she didn't think I could ever write a romance because we were talking about 50 Shades of Grey, and I was saying, oh, it's a bit not super big fan of the books, and she was saying, well, you can't write one. So I thought, well, I'll give it a go. So I wrote one. I wrote a paranormal romance. Completely in secret, published it under the secret pen name, Steffanie Holmes. I didn't even tell my husband about it, and then it sold really, really well. I think it sold about 1,000 copies in the first week, and
wow.
And I just went, whoa, okay. And so I frantically, and it was so much fun to write, and so I sort of frantically finished the second book in the series and put that out about 3 weeks later, and it just kept selling. And I kept thinking, oh, Amazon's going to call me and they're going to tell me they've given me someone else's royalties, and it's this just can't be true. But they never called me, and I had to tell my husband, well, I've kind of made all this money this month, but it wasn't off of my super serious science fiction books that I was sort of selling about 10 copies a month off of those ones before. But I was like, well, it's actually off these sort of secret pen name that I've got. And he said, well, he's kind of cracking up laughing, but he also said, well, are you going to write some more? And I thought, well, yeah, they're heaps of fun, so I will keep writing them, and that's exactly what I've been doing.
And so how has self-publishing worked for you? I mean, obviously you mentioned, selling 1,000 in the first week. What's the process been like for you? And are you still enjoying it? And is it still working for you, as an author financially and, just in terms of getting your books out there?
I absolutely love it. I am so happy. I was able to quit my day job that I had February last year, so I'm at sort of just over 1 year writing full time for myself, earning awesome money. It's amazing being able to, because I can publish as quickly as I want to. I've got a really good process in place now, so I've got my editor on call, I've got my cover designer, I've got my husband who's my beta reader, and so everyone works in this really tight system. So I can just get books out and I can talk directly to my readers, and it's so much fun, and it's just so amazing, and it's such a great opportunity for authors, for any authors, and especially people like me that we're kind of really struggling to find an audience in traditional publishing, and then discovering that actually our people are out there buying ebooks directly from us. It's super cool.
That's great. Well, I wanted to circle back for a moment because you talked about your vision and that you're legally blind. I wonder what's the writing process for you? Do you use a regular laptop, and are you able to expand the type? Is that how you work?
So what I do is I have a really snazzy setup. I have a laptop computer which I use for traveling, but it's sort of not ideal because I look so close to the screen I kind of hunch over it a bit. So I have that plugged into a beautiful big curved fancy screen, which is on a stand, so it sits right in front of my face as I sit at my desk, and it kind of, to other people it would look like a crazy place to put a screen, but it's exactly perfect for me, and basically my nose practically touches the screen. And I have a beautiful mechanical keyboard that kind of goes clackety clack, and that's really nice. So I do that, and then I also reverse the contrast on the screen, because a lot of my eye condition is about I struggle to see in kind of bright light, and glare really affect me. So I have a high contrast setting, so instead of a white background with black text, I have a black background with white text, which cuts down on the glare on the screen. So I do that, and I have a super dark kind of library / office, so there's not much light that comes in, which is light's not the best thing. Gotcha. Direct light's not the best thing. Yeah.
And so I know that some of your novels, such as Shun that we were talking about, are categorized as reverse harem romance novels. For those listeners who may not have heard of reverse harem, how would you explain that concept?
So reverse harem is really fascinating. It's kind of come into its own almost as a subgenre of romance, and maybe really only the last 2 to 3 years. And what it is it's a romance story with a female lead character, except instead of having a romance with one person, she has a romance with several men. So usually, in order to be categorized as a reverse harem, it would be 3 or more men. So it's kind of like, the idea is kind of taking sort of harem stories, which are quite sort of relatively common in fantasy books aimed at men, where the male protagonist kind of collects a whole bunch of different women that are kind of in his harem almost, and they all know each other, know the other people exist, but they all kind of get along famously, or maybe there's a bit of tension, but they're all sharing the one guy. And so reverse, that's the reason it's called reverse harem, because it's that same trope but reversed. So so the female protagonist has all these men who absolutely worship her, and the whole thing is all about just basically the hashtag for the genre is why choose. Why have a love triangle? Why should Katniss have to choose between Peter and Gale from Hunger Games? And why couldn't she have them both? So that's kind of what it's all about.
And so what do you think drives the appeal of that?
I think it's a really fun kind of wish fulfillment thing. it's, so much of romance is about just kind of escaping the drudgery, if you will, of everyday life. And a lot of them are kind of, if you've got 5 guys around, one of them might be an awesome chef, one of them might be really great at massages, one of them might, it might be really fun to go out and, take you out dancing or something like that. So you kind of got someone that fulfills every single need. And I think if you're at home and you're reading a romance book and the kids are running everywhere and the dishes aren't done and no one ever thinks about taking you dancing. And, I think there's kind of an appeal in that. Yeah.
Sure. Well, you mentioned earlier that you've write rather quickly in terms of the Steffanie Holmes novels that you started writing. What writing tips or tricks do you have for writers who may be listening who want to write more or write faster?
Okay. So I've been kind of learning to write faster over the last sort of 3 to 4 years. And when I first started writing the romances in 2015, I had a day job, and I think I moved to another day job, and then another day job, which were all even more demanding. So I was learning to write fast around those commitments. And that's kind of helped a lot when I quit. So when I quit, I was able to, kind of double or triple the amount I could write in a day just because I already had the practice down. So I will often write with a timer. So I set the timer for 20 minutes and I will write and just focus on writing during that time. And it kind of tells my brain, don't look at Facebook, don't read that article, just write. And that, I find that really helps to just kind of focus you have 20 minutes of focus. And then after 20 minutes, I have a little break and then I go back and do another 20. And I try to do that. When I had my day job, I would write on the bus. I had a 45-minute bus ride each way. And so I'd take out my computer and I'd kind of lean against the side of the bus and I would write there and back, and I would usually get 1,500 to 2,000 words every day, just like that. And 2,000 words a day, if you can do that, that's a book every kind of 2 to 3 months, just like that. So I do that. The other thing I do is I'm not really, I used to think I wasn't an outliner, so I'm kind of a bit of a seat of your pants writer, and I don't like to write a detailed outline of a book because I feel like if I've written that outline, I don't need to write the book because I know what happens, so the fun's kind of gone. But what I've realised that I actually do is I actually do write an outline, but the outline is just the first draft of the book. So I write a super fast first draft of a 70,000 word book. The first draft will be about 15 to 20,000 words. So it's super bare bones kind of thing. And it literally just is, dividing the book into chapters and kind of writing vague dialogue and vague sort of action scenes and the emotional journey of the characters just in really vague terms. Often it's literally just dialogue and nothing else. And then once I've done that pours out of me really fast in a few days or sort of 5 days or a week. And after I finish that, I go back and I fill in all the details and make it really pretty and kind of make it all work. But doing that super fast outline means that I can go back and spend time making everything quite pretty, but I know exactly what's going to happen, so I don't go down any weird tangents or take it off in a strange direction or anything like that. Yeah. And
is that a process that you've developed over time?
Yes, it absolutely is. When I first wrote the Engine Ward series, that was all done. I didn't really have an outline, and a lot of the time I would write sections and then realise that they were further back in the book or swap them around or things like that. And that's why those books took sort of 5 years to write each instead of the 1 to 2 months that it takes me now.
Gotcha. So are you working on a new novel now?
I am always working on a new novel. Yes, so I have a series which is my most popular series, which is called the Nevermore Bookshop Mysteries, and it's a reverse harem series. It's kind of like a cozy mystery, except that it's quite steamy, so it's not a cozy mystery. And the main character basically ends up working.
Still there?
Are you? Yep, I'm here.
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, that was weird.
Okay.
Do I just keep going?
Yep, just keep going. Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. And the main character ends up working in a bookshop, and it's a little bit like Black Books, the TV show, except that instead of having Bernard Black as the bookshop proprietor, it's Heathcliff from Wuthering Heights, and James Moriarty from Sherlock Holmes. He lives in the flat upstairs, and so does the Raven from Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, who's a shapeshifter. Sorry. So she's got this harem of these fictional characters that have come to life, and they don't know why they've come to life, and they have to solve different murder mysteries. And there's also an overarching mystery of what's happening in this bookshop and why is it cursed, and who Mina's father is, and all these things. It's the most fun series to write, and so I've just released book 3 in that series, which is called Pride and Premeditation, and book 4, which is called Memoirs of a Garrotter, is what I'm working on at the moment. And I've just finished. I'm just finishing the rough draft, and then I'm going to start going back and tidying it up and making it pretty.
Sure. So outside of writing fast and writing, in genres that obviously there's a demand for, such as the reverse harem and your other work, are there other things that you're doing in terms of self-publishing to help drive sales? Are you doing any marketing or advertising?
So up until this year, I haven't done a lot of advertising and things like that. Like I have a newsletter, like a mailing list, and it's at the back of all my books, and people sign up, and so I'm always sending those out every. Usually only when I have a new release, but because that's every month or so, it's quite a lot. So I have the newsletter, and I have a Facebook group which has got about 1,000 readers in it, and I just go and hang out on there. So those are things I've been doing for a while, and I will, every few months I'll put the first book in one series on sale for free or for 99 cents or things like that. And I had a few book bubs on my books, like my old back catalogue, which is wide, over the years. So apart from all that stuff, I haven't really done, I don't really do Facebook ads or AMS ads or anything like that. And it was kind of my goal this year to learn how to do those things. And I've been trying and testing things, but I haven't really found it to be very beneficial.
Right.
So, so I'm not sure if I'm just not quite getting it right yet, or if I need to throw more money at it, or if it's just just not going to really be part of my system. But sure. I find that I have found over the years that honestly the best marketing is just putting out another book. Putting out another book. So I sort of just focusing on that, just trying to get all my ideas down really fast and get books out faster, while still making sure that they're at the quality that my readers expect, and that they're good enough that people want to read them. And right.
So I know that your books are available on Kindle. Do you also make them available as paperbacks as well?
Yes. I've been a little bit slack about doing all my books as paperbacks, because it's just one of the things I sort of forget about.
Right.
But it was my goal this year to sort of January, February, to get everything into paperback. Sure. And so I'm pretty sure, I might not be quite right, but I'm pretty sure everything is now in paperback, which is awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, and I've just signed a deal with Tantor Media to do the first 3 books in the Nevermore series in audiobook, which will be my first ever audiobooks, and I'm really, really excited about that.
That's great. Well, I know a lot of writers are also big readers. I was wondering, have you read any books, fiction or nonfiction, lately that you would recommend?
Oh, I read so many things. So what have I been reading? So I'm just reading at the moment a kind of a gothic horror novel by a woman named Laura Purcell, and it's called The Corset. And Laura wrote this book a couple of years ago called The Silent Companions, which is I think one of the best sort of gothic horror books that's come out in the last, since The Woman in Black, really. It was amazing. And so this is your second book, and I've only a couple of chapters in it, and I'm so excited. And I've just finished. There's a really amazing reverse harem author named C.M. Stunich, and she wrote that she's been writing this series called The Rich Boys of Burberry Prep, and it's a set in a high school, and it's one of these bully romances. So the harem that the main character collects, some members of it used to bully her, and then she gets revenge on them, and in the process of getting revenge they all fall in love, and it's a bit dark and it's a bit twisted, but it's really, really fun. So I've read that. That's really cool. What else have I been reading? And I've been reading, because I have been writing this murder mystery series, I've been reading a lot of kind of non-fiction about things that have to go into it. So I've just finished a book called A is for Arsenic, which is looks at all the poisons that Agatha Christie used in her books, and then it goes through each different kind of poison, so arsenic and cyanide and strychnine and all these different poisons, and then kind of talks about historical murders that have used them and how Agatha Christie used them and whether that was accurate and kind of the science behind how they work. And it was super fascinating, except I know far too much now about how to poison people.
Great. Well, again, we've been speaking with Steff Green, author of many novels under the Steffanie Holmes name, as well as novels published under S.C. Green. So go grab a copy of Steff's novels. They're available on all the major ebook platforms. And Steff, thanks for doing this interview.
Thank you so much.
More than 1 in 3 people will face cancer in their lifetime. Unfortunately, fear can stop you from getting your cancer screening, but it won't stop cancer. Early detection can save your life. Don't wait for symptoms to appear to act. Cancer screening is safe, effective, and accessible for everyone, including free or low-cost screening programs. Go to cancerscreeninfo.com right now for free screening resources and recommendations from the American Cancer Society. Don't wait. Early detection can save your life. Go to cancerscreeninfo.com today. Cancerscreeninfo.com.
At Kroger, we know the holiday season is going to be special for everyone. So use the Kroger app to get personalized coupons, weekly deals, and rewards like fuel points. That way you'll get all the fresh holiday specialties you love at prices that are lower than low. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
And now you'll find more ways to save on your favorites. When you download digital coupons, you can use up to 5 times in one transaction. Kroger, fresh for everyone.